tracks today.
All I do is grind. That's how I eat. I got mouths to feed.
On Saturday, and it's a phenomenal fight. And actually, there's a lot of things going into that fight that none of us know about, because Khabib has never fought anybody like Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier has never fought anything like Khabib Nurmagedove. And I talked about that in my prediction video, so if you guys haven't checked that out, I recommend you guys go into my prediction video. If you want, you could just skip right to the Khabib versus Dustin Poirier part. And when two elite fighters at the top of the division go after each other and have never fought a style like their opponent in their entire career, it usually delivers an awesome contest, something that we probably won't even expect, which makes this fight perplexing. So Khabib Nurmagedove has fought many strikers, many big punchers. Going down the list, he just fought Conor McGregor, big left hand, a sniper. He just fought Eli Quinta, big right hand, looks for angles to land that big punch. He fought Edson Barboza, a speedy distance kicker with big power in his hands to get opponents away from him. And he fought Michael Johnson, very similar to a Conor McGregor, a sniper with big power in his left hand. But looking at all these fighters, what do they have in common? They're all one-shot strikers. They're all trying to land that big, powerful punch or kick of theirs, and then resetting the action right afterwards, such as Conor's gonna pressure you and try to get you to fall into the left hand, or snipe you at a distance with that left hand. Eli Quinta's trying to create an angle and land that big, powerful right overhand of his. Edson Barboza is trying to create distance so he can land that big kick in all different kind of variations. Michael Johnson is trying to get you off of him with a quick left straight or a dazzling right hook. And now, how are all these fighters different than Dustin Poirier? Dustin Poirier is a combination striker with a lot of emphasis on his boxing. He's not looking for that one big shot. He did a little bit in his last fight against Max Holloway because he kind of had to. He cannot go out there and trade with Max Holloway with volume. He has to throw power shots at Max Holloway. That is something he never really does in any other fight. Against Eddie Alvarez, against Justin Gaethje, against Anthony Pettis. I mean, he is always looking to smother you and overwhelm you with combinations. Decent power in every strike, but not 100%. And that in itself is something that Khabib has never fought up against before. And how does this work against Khabib's defense? Well, Khabib's defense is a lot like John Jones, actually, where he pulls with his lead hand to create distance and also cover the left side of his chin. And he brings his right hand up for a tight guard. And if opponents are going to try to land left straights, such as Conor McGregor, Michael Johnson, and even Dustin Poirier in this fight, he closes his arms in to make it a lot more tight for the punch to get through. And he also is leaning back, so even if that straight is coming after him, he's going to lean away, moving his head with the punch, which diminishes the impact. And this is usually the only defense he has shown in recent fights, and it has worked in almost every single fight, even against the snipers, because when he defends that one big shot that he is anticipating, the action is pretty much reset, and that's usually coming from his opponents. And from there, he's able to download some of the data and then gauge the fight in a different manner, and now getting a better timing for his takedowns. Against a combination puncher, it's a lot harder to download the data and take away from the exchanges, because so much is going on. Dustin Poirier, he's the one that actually forces his opponents to reset the action. Once he goes and throws combinations at you, he's not going to stop. He's not going to let off the combo, and that forces his opponents to do something to get out of there. And usually, it's not a takedown. It's usually trying to create distance. It usually is trying to get away. And Khabib, you probably think Khabib will go under for a takedown, but Khabib's defense doesn't really allow him to go for takedowns. Right, when he's leaning away and putting that post and guard up, he is pretty much forced to retreat afterwards. So it's the post and retreating that you see from John Jones a lot. And it's very hard to change levels from there because you're kind of standing straight or leaning back on your back foot. And when you lean on your back foot, it's very hard to change levels around and go forward and now lean on your front foot, especially when you're under fire from punches. So that whole concept in itself is very troublesome for Khabib Nurmagedove. Now where Khabib's opponents usually reset the action for themselves because their one-shot snipe misses, Khabib in this fight is going to have to reset the action. And that is something that Khabib never really does in his fights. The only time we ever seen something like that was in the Michael Johnson fight, where Michael Johnson was constantly trying to snipe at him because Khabib was closing the distance constantly. And Michael Johnson just keep throwing left hands, sometimes right hooks, just constant sniping at Khabib to get him away. And what you see Khabib do, he kept moving backwards. He kept leaning backwards, to the point where enough left hands went his way and he was able to time it and go under for a takedown. But Dustin Poirier has a lot more variety than Michael Johnson does. He throws a lot more different kind of punches. He throws jabs very well, straight left hands very well. He'll switch stances. His signature punch is that lead right hook, which he gets over guards with. So it's going to be very interesting how he's going to get over Khabib's guard. And you have to also note, this is the exact punch that Michael Johnson stunned Khabib with. And when you link these punches up, how is Khabib going to deal with that pressure? How is he going to deal with the volume and the output? Because just covering up and staying in space is going to get you obliterated like it did against Justin Gaethje, right? Justin Gaethje absorbed a lot of damage to the point where it overflowed the meter, you know? He wasn't able to take any more. So looking at all of this, has there been any opponent of Khabib's that had this similar skill set or similar attribute? There has been one, and that is Rafael dos Anjos. And notably, RDA is also a southpaw fighter who looks for very similar punches that Dustin Poirier does. Left straight, right hook over the top. And what was Khabib's approach to that fight? Instantly, what you see in that fight is Khabib kept at a very far distance. And the reason why he's doing this is because when you are trying to land those combination punches, you have to be in a certain space to do so. If your opponent is staying very far from you, it's very hard for you to start your combinations, right? You have to get in there from a far distance, and because of this, you are also exposing yourself to takedowns on your way in, right? And RDA from this, he wasn't really throwing anything, right? He fights a lot shorter and has a shorter reach than Dustin Poirier, and it was a little bit more problematic for him than it will be for Poirier. And from this, Khabib eventually started to pressure RDA, and the pressure just kept magnifying. It kept getting stronger and harder to deal with. Khabib to a point where just running forward at RDA, throwing flying knees and stuff. And it's something that Dustin Poirier did to Max Holloway that Khabib started to do to RDA. To beat Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier had to come out there with powerful strikes to stop Max Holloway's output right away, stop his momentum right away. When they punched with each other, Poirier